Well, welcome back. You are listening to Marja, and this is the Lecture Center. And I'd like to introduce you to Series 2. That's right, this is our second series, and this is about socialism. Socialism, the gateway to communism. Friends, here we are yet again, and if you're here, it's because you want an earful of the unconventional talk. You're seeking a different take on what's happening in society and the world. Here at the Lecture Center, we like to, instead of providing commentary and biased opinions, present facts based on solid truths that have, thanks to nature and God, been solidified and established before my time and yours. Friends, that's why these truths are irrefutable. Although people always try to contest them, we can see that the proof is in the pudding. If you want to know what I'm saying is true, it requires that you observe your inner nature. That means yourself. And you need to draw conclusions not based on how you feel, but what's really there, what's evident. Now, I know that this is not necessarily an easy task, because if it were, more people would be doing it, and people don't really want to do the work of selfhood, as I call it. People would prefer to think about everything going on in their external environment. They look outside of themselves. They blame everybody for their life's problems. They blame people for their lack of success and for everything that seems to be negative that's happening, rather than looking at themselves. And the fact of the matter is this: reality, for the most part, this is reality, friends. It's their perception. It's your perception. And that's how their mind, and I'm talking about these people, view other people, places, and things. And these perceptions don't necessarily define reality. No, they don't. Because reality is rooted in truth. And truth, as I have said so many times before, is immutable. Now, how can people try and contest the unchanged? They do, because that's the arrogance of mankind. Friends, it's our arrogance that contributes to the demise of our great civilizations. It's the arrogance of man that is contributing to the collapse of Western civilization. Well, actually, it's arrogance combined with foolishness. And the two are really lovers. Friends, I just really need to thank you yet again. I'm so grateful, I should say, for your support and for joining me for another thought-provoking and deeply informative series. I need you to listen to this, because we are going to totally unravel. We're going to unbox. We are going to talk about the current state of affairs. And this is going to be a 7-part series, and we are really going to be exploring the roots of communism. And it's not what you think. It's never what you think, because every time I talk and every time I bring something to the forefront, it is always rooted in the spiritual. And the spiritual is rooted in humankind, or mankind himself. You'll notice that some of these lectures will overlap. I might talk about civilization again. I might talk about the collapse of civilization, but it is all related. And so this episode is called The Price of Security. And the reason I thought we would begin here is because there's a dire need for security. This is who man is. Man is always seeking security, and he always wants to have a savior, somebody to come in and just rescue him from his own self. And that savior could be a leader, it could be a head of state, it could be some kind of government official, it could even be parents or guardians. It doesn't matter. All most people think about is somebody come in and save the day, save me from my problems, save me from myself. And I want to really dive deeper, because that word security in this case pertains to certainty. Certainty, dependability, and trust. People want to know that they're okay. that all is well and that they have something solid and strong to fall back on in the event that everything suddenly goes awry. Can you blame them? Look, we all want the guarantee of security, even me. I have all of these ideas. I'm venturing out. I'm just totally out there. And I'm like, ooh, is this going to work? So I, in a sense, want security. But there are things that I know that the average person doesn't know. And I know about self-reliance, and I know about maturity. I know about those things. And I'm going to go into that because looking to the external, looking to people, places, and things, even money, to guarantee a sense of security does not. It's a false sense of security. People want a guarantee in life. They want to know that if they lose their job, there's another one out there. They want to know that there's unemployment that they can collect. And that kind of security is a sure thing, right? I mean, after all, our government has guaranteed those protections and entitlements. And these kind of protections are a fraction of the example of a socialist government. And that's a government that's centered on the development of social welfare programs that are essentially in place to stabilize a country or a city, because these benefits are also localized, friends. Should there be any kind of threat, an economic downturn, as I said before, a sudden loss of a job due to health, or even a simple firing, there is some kind of security, some kind of program in place to remedy the problem. Now, what I've just described are really programs. I talked about some kind of programs. I didn't go into depth about the programs. I didn't say what exactly the programs are, because they vary depending on where a person lives in the world and in the state. But what's important to understand is that programs really are the definition of a socialist government externally. But the programs are not the essence of what socialism actually is, because socialism actually begins in the heart of a people. And it is this desire for governmental security. And I said that just a few minutes ago. We're talking about safeguards. We're talking about total dependency on somebody else. Socialism is essentially a safety net. It's the safety net of society. And people want it so desperately that they're willing to do just about anything for it. Friends, they're even willing to give up their natural rights for safety and security. You see, for the average person who's not affluent, that person may have a mediocre paying job. That person or those people may live in a modest home. They don't necessarily have enough money, that is, to pay the bills, so they're struggling. And in some places, and some people, I should say, can't even make rent. So they have to live with roommates, and that's commonplace. And in some other places, people have to work 2 to 3 jobs just to make rent, just to pay other bills. So what I'm saying is that there is an expectation, especially among younger people nowadays, for big government, because that's what happens. Big government to save the day. Government might not be big, but socialism makes government even bigger, because it allows for the government to have more power over the everyday rights, privileges, and benefits of the citizens. And so this is a mentality. A socialist mentality is one that is dependent on others to sustain him. Others can be the government. Others can be friends. Others, any other thing, other outside of the self. And when we talk about government, we're talking about the have-mores. That's what I call them. And the have-mores are those who contribute the most economically. So these are the people who the have-nots expect to take care of them. The attitude is that, well, you have it. And since you have it, you might as well pay it. You pay the taxes. You have it. That's the attitude. So it is a moral obligation. That's the way they look at it. They have a moral obligation to pay their fair share. That's the right thing to do. And I don't agree with that. Not at all. Because who the hell are they to determine what is the right thing to do? And who are they to say or impose their moral disposition or moral authority upon me or anyone else for that matter? And who can really enforce this? Who can tell the have-mores what they need to do for the have-nots? You see, the average citizen has no control over the funds of the wealthy or the affluent. But if they use the government, meaning if they allow the government to employ their wants and their desires, they can garner somewhat of a control. And as you notice, I said somewhat, because no government has the absolute authority to assume control over the finances of the individual. Well, let me rephrase that. They can't do it in a capitalist state. That is why socialists have an aversion to capitalism. And that is why they want it abolished, because they can't have the complete and total control that they want. So what socialists want to do is use the government to control the wealthy, control their businesses, control their real estate, control their assets. Everything that allows for them to be affluent, they want control of it. And essentially what they want to do is use other people's money. Yes, that's right. The money of the have-mores to take care of them. The government is the middleman. And this is nothing new, friends. Mankind has always sought this kind of security. And in his desire for it, he abandons all reason, he abandons integrity, and his own right to self-determination. But he doesn't realize that social dependency breeds fear and a loss of independence. But to be brutally honest, this is not what they want, right? They don't want to be independent. They want to fully depend on the government, which is really those who are independent. Let's be clear about this. When I use the word government, depending upon the context, I might mean government elected officials. But I want you to understand, please know this, the true government is the people. The government officials represent the people. And all governments are like this, even if they're tyrannical. Friends, you have to understand that no tyrant could come to power if not backed by the people. And this is where the conversation we're having gets really interesting, because typically when we look at tyrannical countries, we seem to believe that the people are victims of the tyrant, but that's only what it seems. What nobody seems to pay attention to is how they ended up in tyranny to begin with. That's where we're going with this. Anytime people desire to be taken care of, and what I mean is they don't want to deal with the hardships of life, the inconvenience of being poor, and the misfortunes that may come with life. They want to be spared. They want someone to save them from their woes, so they don't have to bear any responsibility or accountability. This is the definition of being immature and dependent. And dependence is really the fear of life itself. It's the fear of standing on one's own feet and being self-reliant. And we have cultivated a society that does not want to grow up. We have cultivated a society, yes, right here in the Western world, where people no longer want to mature. And I have many theories about why and how, but I'll say one thing. It has a lot to do with decadence. It has a lot to do with the height of our cultural development. You see, there are pros and cons to man uplifting himself from a degraded state. He essentially comes full circle. He uplifts himself from a degraded, barbaric nature to his heights, where he is at living and creating high society, which includes the arts, and the arts include many things, such as theater, such as music, such all of those things. And then simultaneously, while he's at his apex, he also, which I'm saying the apex of his evolution, he's also devolving. Again, this is the equilibrium. This is the point of equilibrium. Man's ascent is also his descent. So while man is at his height and he's thriving, he's doing well, he's also scared to death of living life. And I can't even begin to talk about all the videos being posted on TikTok and X that show these whiny, weak, and pathetic souls. And they're young. And they're telling the world while in tears that they can't find work. They can't make ends meet. They have student debt they can't pay. And they can't even pay for their gas. And I could go on. And my question is, why on earth would anyone want to post a video like that? What's the point? I mean, are they trying to gain sympathy, or are they looking for charity? To me, all these videos scream is, look at me. I'm weak, I'm fragile, and unable to cope with life. Not to mention the fact that I don't want to work. I don't want to face hardships and changes. And I want someone to rescue me from myself. So friends, with all of this said, there is no surprise that the Western world has opened the door to communism via socialism. That's where we're headed, friends. And those who are saying and have said that the Zoran Mandanis of the world, or the country, I should say, are coming out of nowhere, because it seems that they are, right, are terribly misinformed. And they're living under a rock. You're living under a rock because the threat of communism has been among us for many years, and it's been kept at bay because as long as people live in illusions, i.e. the illusion of prosperity and wealth, which is essentially the acquiring of material things, the more people can buy, the less poor they feel, the less they feel like they're struggling. And it doesn't matter what they buy. It can be a TV, a computer, an iPhone. Materialism is an illusion, and it provides comfort to the poor because in appearances, they're not poor and struggling. And by the way, this illusion also presents itself to the world. That's why the third world immigrates to the West. They think we're all rich. And now, with the internet, they can see how we live. They can see our walk-in closets and our fancy cars. It's like lifestyle of the rich and famous on steroids. However, it's a misrepresentation, I should say, of real life. Little do these people know in the third world, wealth is not the accumulation of material objects. So then they come here and they find out, and many are finding out, and they too are depending on our welfare system. They've quickly learned that they can receive something for nothing indefinitely. And friends, what's morally upright about that? How does giving people what they never worked for, never contributed to, the upright thing to do? I've said this so many times. There is no universal or natural law that supports this. The universal law is reciprocity, which is giving and receiving, meaning that if you don't give, you don't get. And if we adhere to that law, that is the only guarantee of any kind of security. If people really understood that it's their moral duty to contribute to their town, city, job, family, and community in its entirety, and even their country, they would really understand what it means to be prosperous. Because nobody becomes prosperous without contribution. Let me repeat that. This is the formula for affluence and wealth, friends. Contribution. If one does not give, one cannot receive. And the problem with these people is they want something for nothing. You see, the law, which is a universal law, gives to those who give. I will say it again. You cannot get something for nothing. In the United States, we foster a welfare state and government that totally supports dependency. And it is dependency that spans a lifetime. I should really say generations. It's generational dependency. And it is disgusting. It's disgusting because we're not producing citizens that contribute to the state or the country. The crazy thing about it is we've done this under the guise of virtue, and we continue to do it because it feeds the egos of the moralists and it keeps them in political power. Think about it. NGOs can't function without socialism. And if we automatically said, oh, let's end it today, tens of thousands would become unemployed. But there is a serious problem with the system. And the videos that people are posting on X and TikTok is indicative of the problem. We've bred a mentally and emotionally fragile society that cannot face life. These children, because that's what they are, they're immature, can't cope with life. They're financially dependent. They're off the rocker. And they're on drugs. Yes, they are. So many of them are on prescription drugs just to function. And they're not only on legal drugs, they're also on illegal substances. Just to try to function. And the function is really dysfunction. Friends, this is indeed a sick society. It really is. And so we have the AOCs of the world. Oh, yes. There are many. They're growing, these people, because it's not only AOC, it's those who follow her, who call themselves progressives. And she's out here, and they are out here, because there are others, like a wolf in sheepskin to take advantage of the mentally fragile and the mentally ill. That's what they're doing. And they're doing it all to remain in their government seats. Friends, we're going to talk about this as the series progresses because it's too much to go into in one episode. And I hope you will join me for episode 2, where we discuss the sacrifice that people are making when they vote yes for socialism. If you like this content and you would love more, please follow us here on the Lecture Center. That's our handle. And we're on YouTube, Rumble, X, Medium, and Substack. Until next time.